Coming to you from Dynatrace Perform in Las Vegas, it's pure performance.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the jointly produced Perf Bites and Pure Performance, live from, or not live, but from, coming to you from Dynatrace Perform in Las Vegas. Leandro Melendez is my co-host today from Perf Bites Español. Hola, Leandro.
Hello, hola, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here.
How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Enjoying and very excited about all that is happening. Perform 2020. Seriously excited.
Great, me too. So our guest now we have from xMatters, and this is their product evangelist, Travis Depuy?
Depuy, yeah.
Excellent, Depuy. It was very, very close. Travis, welcome to the Perf Bites and Pure Performance. How are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good. Thanks for having me on. I'm stoked.
Great. Can you, before we start getting into any of the stuff, do you want to just give a little brief background of who you are and why you're here?
Yeah, so I'm a product evangelist with xMatters. And I'm a man of many hats. So I
as
wander
you
around.
can see in your LinkedIn profile, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I do a lot of blog posts and talks here and there, and then I also kind of build integrations that we want to explore or that customers kind of request. So I get to get my hands dirty, into some code, but then I also do some of this, evangelizing kind of stuff too.
Great. So, for people who are maybe not familiar with xMatters, in a nutshell, what is it that xMatters does, and how would organizations use xMatters?
Sure. Yeah, we help keep digital services running. When stuff blows up, we help you guys keep it up and running. We do that by tracking people down using on-call schedules and notification devices. But really, the notifications, it's not the first thing that happens. That's really, it's not the last thing that happens. That's really the end of the incident. So we help you, build out workflows that allow you to either enrich the notifications or provide workflow options so that you can, drive stuff forward. So you can actually start the troubleshooting process before you even, get off your phone.
Great. And it's just, as people may or may not know, there is an integration between xMatters and Dynatrace, so you can feed the problems into xMatters. And if I'm not mistaken, you all, so some of the integrations you've been working with, can you explain? Right, so I guess that falls into the category of helping to automate the pipeline, helping to feed data from one tool to another. One thing we've seen with a lot of vendors of all different shapes and sizes is the idea of using these API integrations.
Yep.
So that you can, without necessarily even having to go into some of the tools for some of the features, the APIs can communicate to each other and take care of things and then bring you a result or something else. What is it that you all have done on the Dynatrace side with that, or with Dynatrace? How does that integration work?
Yeah. So we have a couple different, places. So once Dynatrace, figures out that something's wrong, it can reach out to a person, that we're really good at tracking people down and letting them make a decision about something. But even before that point, we have tools, integration tools. We call them the flow designer. And on this nice canvas, you can build out a nice flow that would, once Dynatrace reaches out to xMatters, we can then run, other API calls to either enrich the data or, maybe go run some kind of job either in Dynatrace or some other tool to actually, perform a self-healing action before we even engage a person. But then, maybe that self-healing action didn't actually fix the problem. So then it's like, okay, now we need to get, I had one client that called it a hands-on keyboard. So they would do all this kind of front work, and then they'd say, okay, well, that did not work automatically. So let's, get hands-on keyboard to actually get somebody to pay attention to this. So
when you mentioned that it specializes in notification and reaching out to people, what are the capabilities of reaching people, or what are the channels? How do you manage to do this? Like, you call their wives to say, hey, you're being requested? Or
Yes, we're working on the cat droppings. Sorry, the drone delivery from by cat. No, but we do push notifications, voice calls, SMS, and what am I missing? We do. There are still some pagers out there. We also had a client. I don't think we actually have them anymore, but they requested a fax feature. They wanted.
Oh, wow.
oh, cool.
Yeah, so we actually had to build a fax system.
Not so cool, more retro than cool, but
yeah, retro cool.
wow.
And you could have the fax drop the fact sheet on a scanner and then automatically email it to the person.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
Yeah, we're building out a whole IoT department for that. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true at all.
So one thing you mentioned that was interesting, because we've seen this, anytime I say us, I'm referring to like Andy and myself, because we've done a lot of podcasts with some of these pieces in the self-healing side. And one thing we see, and you mentioned a really good point, is when it comes to self-healing, a lot of people think that, well, you just automate all the self-healing and then you don't have to touch anything anymore, right? But the reality is, conceptually, at least as far as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, that with self-healing, you're going to have, depending on the criteria that comes in, right? So again, in this instance, Dynatrace sends over some data about what the problem that goes on. xMatters is going to know, okay, based on this, we're going to tell maybe Ansible Tower or something else to run this playbook, which might have been automated and set up, and then go back and check to make sure the problem is actually resolved based on the self-healing factor. Now, often there might be several different steps and several different things you can try to do. Like maybe try a reboot if the reboot doesn't work. Maybe you try doing something else. If not, if there was a deployment, maybe at that point you roll back. Whatever those steps might be, but there sometimes can come a case when nothing works. And that's when you have to take then and reach out to an actual human being. So you can automate so much of it until you hit a point where the self-healing didn't heal, right? And that's, I guess, one of you mentioned that as like the last part of the chain is you'll facilitate all those handoffs between the different tools and help do these things. But then if none of those work, it is going to go ahead and reach out and notify saying, hey, you really need to look at this because we can't fix it automatically. Yep. Did I get that right, or is that completely wrong?
Yeah, let me just expand a little bit. First of all, I would really be interested to find a company that has completely solved this, self-healing problem, and they don't have to reach out to people. I think
that's why people don't like calling it no ops, because there's always ops, right?
But I also might be concerned that they've actually built Skynet, and we should find the bunkers, ASAP. But then the other part is that once reaching humans, once you reach a human. And, we've done kind of this pre-work to say, okay, well, this was attempted, reboot the server, maybe roll back or something, but we're still having problems. So let's reach out to a person. But then that person usually is again, rarely in a silo. They're rarely by themselves. Mm-hmm. So they are going to, maybe if it's bad enough, they might flip the Sev1 switch. So then, we provide them in the notifications an option to start the Sev1 process. So open up a Slack channel and invite people into the Slack channel, open up a Jira ticket or some other ticket that needs to be open to track that Sev1, and start that process. Like I said before, people kind of, get off their phone. Because there's a lot that happens right after that. The notification's not, not the end of it.
Yeah. So that's cool. So what you're saying then is that instead of them having to like log in, create a Slack channel, invite everybody, that can all be kind of automated as well. And that button will be embedded in the notification, and then they push out. That's really cool.
If it's got an API, we'll call it.
And when you mentioned that you have the flow designer, when this person that doesn't have to create a chat or or join it, do they have a way to trigger these actions that you generate through flow designer, and what actions can they create?
Yeah. So they pre-configure the actions. We're working on, kind of making them a little more dynamic, but currently they're pre-configured, a configuration time. And then they can select that from any of the notification methods that we've reached out to them. So push notifications, voice, email, SMS, all have the same kind of response set, so that however xMatters gets to you, you can initiate the same actions.
So it is a little bit like if you want to, I don't know, clean up the 10 files of your disk, dial 1 or reply with 0.
Send a fax back with with a hand-drawn
With a
QR
Yeah,
code.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from what other devices? I mean, you mentioned an SMS or a voice call or different integrations. Do you have something like an app or something that the users receive these notifications?
Yeah. So we have a pretty extensive app that receives the push notifications. You can also, initiate kind of custom or ad hoc notifications from there, as well as like see your on-call settings. So you can be like, oh yeah, no, I'm not on call for the next 2 days. Sweet, I'm going to Vegas.
Cool. And also from these apps, you can trigger these actions, right? If you are the person and you know what to initiate from the app, you can call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have extension to other smart devices?
No, not that I can think of right now. Are you talking like Alexa? Like, hey, Alexa, initiate.
Yeah, Alexa, smartwatches, or I don't know. I've seen even the smart fridges can get some of these things.
So you could have your smart fridge initiate. We had played around with the smartwatch, Apple smartwatch specifically. I don't think we actually productized it, but it's floating around somewhere.
Oh, that's really cool. So you can also see there the notifications and trigger some of the actions.
Yeah, exactly.
Your eggs are rotting and your server's going down.
Alexa, buy me some eggs.
Alexa, please reboot the server.
Yeah, but we expose an endpoint so that we can then receive everything in the kitchen sink. So it wouldn't be too hard to build out.
Yeah, and I think that's a common thing with a lot of modern tools these days, right? You have these API endpoints that it might not necessarily be something the tool manufacturer, or I guess software, whatever you want to call it, has built specifically, but the endpoint allows those to be done. So and that's where I think a lot of the creativity of what we're seeing in the interconnection of these tools is going, where people are like, hey, I can do this, and then they build it and put it out there. So it's just because, and this is something we see all the time too, right? Just because it's not officially in the product doesn't mean it can't be done, right? And a lot of people are out there doing these things. So it's really cool to see what people are doing with the tools today. What's the state of all this that you see from, how obviously the customers that you're going to are probably starting on that journey, but in a big picture, right? We've seen even an automated pipeline before getting to remediation, before getting to these other pieces, just even getting an automated pipeline, there's still a lot of catch up people are playing on there. Where do you see the state of taking that for, to the step where you all fit in, and what's on the horizon for that, and what's the outlook like for that whole setup?
Yeah. So I think organizations, once they get to a certain size, they it's hard to keep kind of a standard tech stack or even processes, right? So having these tools that allow for maximum flexibility, a lot of the pipeline tools are just hooking into other places as well. So I think that kind of concept is kind of reaching out to other places, and so having tools that can have the flexibility to talk to all the other tools that the organization is working in is going to be important. I mean, for example, kind of going back to the Sev1 incident kind of thing. You might have your dev team is working in Jira, but they need to have a ticket created for the CSMs or for the support people to be able to have some kind of visibility into that incident, because they're affected by that, but they may not necessarily be responsible for it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think teams that or tools that can have flexibility and talk to those other tools, and then support a variety of different processes and technologies, is definitely where we're going to see a lot of work, in the future and soon.
In terms of the sort of, you kind of describe some prerequisites, certain tooling and all this. But when people are thinking, all right, now, and I'm going to use the self-healing part as an example. I know that's not all that you all do, but it's just the piece that interests me. But if someone's going to say, I want to head towards self-healing, right? Obviously, they want to first get a pretty solid pipeline and everything. But let's say they are like, well, we don't know all of our playbooks. We don't know all the conditions to do everything. I would imagine some people might feel overwhelmed and say, we have to figure all that out before we take the next step. Yeah. But I would imagine you might counter smartly, just like, the whole process of going to CI/CD in the first place, and would be you don't have to have everything figured out first.
Right.
If you have one workflow figured out, start there.
Yep.
And then you can build as you learn from that, as you make sure you have the proper inputs for everything. It doesn't have to be an all at once. You don't have to get all your playbooks in line. You don't have to make sure all your metrics and everything is set up. Just get one solid case, and then you could start on that journey. Am I correct in that? Is that what you recommend to people? Or is it just the exact opposite?
Yeah, no, I definitely would recommend that. Actually, I've been buried in the Google's SRE handbook. That has been, or actually, technically it's called the Site Reliability Engineering, but I call it the SRE handbook because it sounds better. But they really stress the importance of postmortems. So every incident of a certain priority or severity, you will have a postmortem. And then there should be artifacts taken away from there. So if you're not fixing a process or fixing, something, you're at least taking actions that can be translated into a run book. And yeah, certainly in the beginning, no, you're not going to have anything, right? But after, a year, 2 years, now you're going to start to compile a list of run books, that can be helpful in those situations.
Yeah, my question was a little bit in that channel or on that topic. How is this these workflows to trigger actions, how they are designed or what information gets stored so that in the future, when you experience an incident or something that you have already experienced and you already applied some solution, you can quickly and easy, let's say, not only the system, but the organization starts to learn how to create these flows or is it, how am I imagining that this works?
Kind of. We are really good at tracking people down and giving them a decision point on what to do next. So we would rely on, the other tools like Ansible that would actually do the run book. So we would deliver the information so that a person could then say, run book alpha or beta or gamma. And then we can go talk to Ansible and say, okay, execute, run book alpha. So it's like a best in breed, right? We're not going to rebuild Ansible. We're not in the business of putting Ansible out of business, or Red Hat, I guess. But being able to insert a human into a process, is still important. As much as we talk about automation, having people, make decisions and move process forward is still critical.
And for what you mentioned, you are leaving like breadcrumbs or some sort of log of what were the solutions applied and what was the situation, so that this can be built up in the future.
Sure. Yeah, even we've done some use cases where we pre-populate or pre-configure a postmortem. So we can grab maybe some scribe updates from a channel, Slack channel, and then dump those into maybe a Confluence document. Actually, I think in the particular use case I was thinking of, we did it in ServiceNow. So the incident started in ServiceNow, created a Slack channel. We pulled just the scribe updates into the incident, so that then when somebody's going through trying to do a postmortem, they have all of the information of when the incident started, who was notified, who started the conference bridge, and then the scribe updates as well.
Cool. So everybody or the key people gets involved quickly, get the information as soon as possible, and get ready to start acting on. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And if I might, from these features that the solution has and that you have applied with your customers, which ones would you say have been the ones that your customers praise the most or like the most? I mean, we all have our favorites.
Yeah. The enrichment piece, I think, has been really, it's always fun to go to these events and talk about. This enrichment process where you have the monitoring arm that has found an issue, but then pulling in information from other sources. In the past, or, you talk to some large IT organizations where it was like the CMDB, being able to map a particular business service to a CMDB. Now it's kind of more like, okay, this is the microservice that we're dealing with. Okay, where does it sit in the service mesh? So, enriching, because, nothing's in a vacuum. So it's all part of a ecosystem, but which part of the ecosystem is it affecting? So enriching that kind of information and then delivering that to a person, is invaluable, because they can quickly make a decision.
Yeah, I'm sure that they are all very happy not to be thrown at a defect, a problem, or an emergency blindfolded and like, whoa, what's happening?
Yeah, exactly.
I guess what you're saying is like you get all the answers almost right away to start
Sure.
acting.
Yep.
Sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty stoked about it. It's fun to do.
I guess one more question I wanted to ask is, what do you see on the horizon for this next year? Not to put you like in a predictive spot, but based on trends from last year and everything, or maybe some projects or new ideas you're trying to work on, what are you hoping to see accomplished or kind of make some waves in the upcoming year?
I think, kind of taking this idea that we've fleshed out pretty well in the, incident management space, and bring it into the security space. Actually, I was talking to our information assurance team this week, and we built out a nice little flow so that when they get notified from their incident application, then they can start this process of, okay, let's start the collaboration process and, get people chatting. And I think kind of just taking the same concept, because it's the same kind of teams that are kind of dealing with something happened. I need to get some more information. I need to get people together, and then we need to close it. Like, it's kind of the same process that a lot of different teams go through. So I think it'll be interesting to explore, all these other ones. Actually, we just had a blog post that was for Wires, is a rescue group, animal rescue group in Australia, and they've been using us extensively. Of just like people in Australia can call them up to say, hey, I found an animal on the side of the road, and then using xMatters, they can dispatch people out to go find that animal and then bring it back and, get it the medical help or help that it needs.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty cool.
It's funny that you mentioned the security piece because, I started working in performance in around 2000. Right. And for the longest time, you couldn't get people to pay attention to performance. And it seems like it has a pretty good spotlight on it now. It still could always be better, right? Just like anything. But then whenever anyone brings up security, I almost feel bad for security because they're like in that spot performance was years ago where everyone's like, yeah, security. And it's like, it's biting everybody and everybody knows they have to pay attention to it. Everyone knows that more has to be done, but it's slow going. So hopefully, with what you're working on and in general, hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more about security in the future because that's getting really scary these days.
And expensive too. I mean, that's the other thing is that, either a breach or, privacy, issues that there's some serious fees associated with some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think also on that line, with what you have in a mechanism of detecting those security holes, breaches, or whatever can be detected, you can, in the same way as you do with technical issues right now, start pinging, start alerting. As usually those security issues get unnoticed for a while until it's too late. And as you say, that's where it gets super expensive and everybody gets sad.
Well, and then also the auditing of all that, who knew what, when, we can, provide some of that context of, okay, well, this person was alerted on these devices and
for tracing issues, right?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, Travis, is there anything else you wanted to get in before we wrap up?
I don't think, just last thing, February 19th, just having a webinar with Andy Grabner. So check that out.
Right, so we should probably find that a link there either on the Dynatrace website or the xMatters. All right, that'll be excited to see that webinar. So that's just a couple weeks after Perform, everybody. So make sure you check that out. There's also, I think we have a 3-part blog on the integration with xMatters on the Dynatrace blog site. And there's also an xMatters, what do you call an ebook, right? A short ebook talking about some of this flow and the connection between your monitoring tools and the xMatters tools, how that all works. So be sure to check those out as well. Travis, thanks so much for stopping by today.
Great. Yep. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much, Travis.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
All right.
Bye-bye.